Joining us now for World Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akinsanya. Good morning, Adefemi.
Good morning, Dr. Rubin. Good morning, Bimbai. Good morning, Rufai. How are we doing?
Abemos Papa.
Do you know what? It was Dr. Rubin that actually broke the news to me. I was at the gym, finished my workout, picked up my phone, and I saw the words, tell me.
Abemos Papa.
We have a pope. Oh, okay. So, let me tell you what's happening around the world. Habemus, as Dr. Rubin said, Habemus Papa. We have a pope. There was white smoke, so we have a pope. 69-year-old U.S. Cardinal Robert Francis Provost has been elected as Pope Leo XIV, prompting celebration and delight among the more than 100,000 pilgrims and tourists that gathered in St. Peter's Square. Now, the eagerly anticipated white smoke did billow out of the chapel's chimney as the world's faithful awaited the unveiling of the new pope, whose message prayed for peace and for God to be with us all. He now becomes the 267th occupant of the throne of St. Peter's. Pope Leo is a moderate. We were actually just discussing that. He's a moderate to some people, cardinal who was given senior roles by Pope Francis and has significant missionary experience in Peru, having served as bishop of the northern city of Chiclayo. He was also the first American, of course, to fill the role of Pope, although he is considered as much a cardinal from Latin America because of the many years he did spend as a missionary in Peru before he became an archbishop there. He was, of course, born in Chicago in 1955 and did serve as an altar boy and was ordained as a priest in 1982. Now, although he did move to Peru 3 years later, he continued to return to the United States to serve as a pastor and a prior in his home city, though he does have Peruvian nationality, so he is a dual national, so the Peruvians can definitely claim him. And he is fondly remembered as a figure who worked with marginalized communities and helped build bridges across those local churches. Now, world leaders, including President Tinubu, have congratulated the new pope, especially to Vice President J.D. Vance, who actually converted to Catholicism as an adult and met Pope Leo's predecessor, Pope Francis, on Easter Sunday, the day before the late Pope died. Now, Pope Leo is considered a centrist, which marks a departure from his predecessor. Now, in terms of the LGBTQ plus community, the Catholic community therein, in 2024, he did say that more discussions were needed to discuss how blessings should be applied to that community. But when we're looking at women, he does fall in line with Pope Francis's stance on women, standing against the ordainment of women, which is a reason why we did see protests earlier on this week. That being said, a huge welcome to the new Pope. I know many people are very, very happy, but we will discuss that a bit further. Now, Microsoft founder Bill Gates says that he intends to give away 99% of his vast fortune over the next 20 years. Gates said that he would accelerate his giving via his foundation with plans to end its operations in 2045. Now, in a blog post released on Thursday, he said that people will say a lot of things about me when I die, but he says that he is determined that him dying rich will not be one of the things that people will say. Now, 69-year-old Gates said that his foundation has already given $100 billion towards health and development projects, and that he expects it will spend another $200 billion, depending on markets and inflation over the next 20 years. And finally, the United States has announced that it is cutting $50 million worth of aid to Zambia's health sector due to the country's failure to address the systematic theft of donated drugs and medical supplies. Now, the US, this is the ambassador to Zambia there, said that it reached this decision after repeated warnings to the Zambian government to safeguard vital drugs meant for the country's most vulnerable patients. That's according to US Ambassador to Zambia, Michael Gonzalez, who went on to say that the US is no longer willing to underwrite the personal enrichment of fraudsters or the corrupt when patients go without or have to buy life-saving medications that we have provided for free. Now, the Zambian government has responded and has accepted that there is corruption in the procurement and the movement of medicine in the country, but did have these strong words to say. Let's take a listen.
What Pricewaterhouse has done is in accordance with the work we asked them to do. The preliminary report, the final report will come in December. And in December, we will sit again to now agree what sanctions need to be taken. I must alert you as citizens that the health sector has been dogged with problems for probably 20 years. And we are committed to rooting out those problems. But we can't do it by a thumbsuck. We have to pin down where the problems are. Right? Who is taking drugs? How is it that drugs leave a health process system end up in private pharmacies, some of which are owned by people working in the same health sector. We've now established where the problem is. And when we come to you for your support, we will lay the report on the table that this is what's been going on, and these are the actions we are taking. And we are determined, if we have to remove 100 people, so it will be.
Strong words there from President Hichilema. It would be very interesting to hear your thoughts before we move on to the papers.
Okay. So the truth is, yes, there's a problem with Zambia. Yes, drugs and everything, have been siphoned, and we don't like it. And it's a pervasive problem, across many parts of the world and development society. But the solution by USAID to stop it, no, that's not the way forward. Because those people still need that drug, and you cannot punish those people because the government does not show accountability. I mean, I have been part of project where people had donated items to some people, and we saw how they siphoned the items. But it doesn't make you stop that work. So how can we look for better forms of intervention still into Zambia? And that's what Hichilema has been talking about, that yet they will try as much as possible to fix the problem. And that ties around to the Bill Gates story, because Bill Gates was also saying that, in as much as I'm going to do everything I can with the, the Gates Foundation now, because Bill and Melinda Gates are split apart. So the Gates Foundation now, but I can't do it all. He's put over 75 billion into this foundation over these years. Sunset Clause 2045, another 200 billion in his lifetime. Is worth a little over 100 billion as we speak today, with his Microsoft earnings and all of that. But the truth is, he says, I can't do it alone. You still need a lot of that USAID funding, because why? The American government that puts the budget out for the development, they have a bigger purse to be able to accommodate it. America takes over 4.5 or 5 trillion in tax returns every year. Probably if you have a budget, knock it about 6 trillion thereabout. At least you can still conveniently give about 20 billion, for things like this. And that's why if you see the money they have popped in PEPFAR, it's really helped a lot. So the American government, and we look forward to a day where things will stabilize again, and America will be able to, help the world. But the truth is, us in the African continent, we cannot continue this way too. We can't keep depending on the magnanimity of rich nations. So we need to also look inward. But I think what Bill Gates said should be an indication for the very rich, or those that steal money in this country and accumulate a lot of wealth. You can see at some point the richest man in the world saying that, I know I can't carry this money to heaven, so let me share it while I'm on earth. All the great resources of wealth God has given him. And the money also includes the money, over 10 million of shares of Hartwell Berkshire that Warren Buffett also gave to the Gates Foundation, for humanitarian services and things like that.
That's true philanthropy.
So that's true philanthropy. And they all signed up something called the Giving Pledge, where they said over 50% of their wealth will be given back while they are alive. In fact, Mark Zuckerberg now, that is now second world richest man, also signed up to that pledge also. So it shows you, for those, those that carry the world on their chests,
we have to.
Please remember, you're not taking this money everywhere. Use it to impact humanity and make life better for a lot of people.
Agreed. Thanks, Rufus.
Stephanie.
All right. I'll do just one, maybe 2 quick sentences. I really want to comment on the newspapers today.
Yes.
Zambia, of course, which is our little sister in the Southern African region. Yes. For me, this highlights the challenge that faces these opposition parties that come into power on the popular vote with the narrative that, we're going to counter the corruption that the incumbent, the ruling party was doing and so forth. And how it's so much harder in principle than it is in theory. Because this theft, of the medical equipment, it dates back to pre-2021 under Edgar Lungu. Now, what are they saying? They're saying that some people are before the courts. They've suspended some directors as well. But the Americans are saying it's not enough. We want to see high-level heads rolling, which is also, a little bit unfair. So 50 million out of the 128 million that Zambia gets from the US in support for medical care is very unfortunate. They said they'll only stop January 2026 so that the Zambian government can have time to work through it. But this is the legacy that happens in the civil service, the corruption that's embedded in the civil service that's bigger than politics.
Okay, on Zambia, what is wrong with us in Africa? Yes, you may criticize President Trump, saying he's cutting aid, and that is affecting developing countries of the world and all that. But in the specific case of Zambia, we are told that the U.S. Embassy in Zambia, in Lusaka, have been investigating this situation for a whole year. And they just discovered that the drugs that are sent in terms of support, the U.S. supplies about 2/3 of the pharmaceuticals that they get in Zambia. Others come from the Global Fund and maybe procurement by the state. They said these things are sold in public pharmacies. And that is what the U.S. is saying, that we cannot allow this. So we will stop sending drugs. It's about corruption. The Zambian government says, oh, we will tackle the issue. We will deal with it. But they've not been able to do it. It's not difficult to go and investigate and find out things that have been given free for the benefit of citizens are being sold
for a profit, you know.
Yeah, and that's why they are complaining that the U.S. cannot fund fraudsters and people just want to make a quick profit. And I think that that is instructive. And it should be a message for other African leaders. So we may criticize Trump, but this one,
agreed.
You know, we have nothing else to say.
Okay.
As for Bill Gates, the major thing that he's saying, he has contributed over $100 billion to support healthcare, measles, children, you know, health development in many countries, and that's commendable. And he's saying in the next 20, 25 years, he will give away 99% of his fortune away. Now, even if he gives that away, he will still be a billionaire, right?
Yes.
So, and his children will not suffer, according to him. But the major point that he made for me was his quoting an 1889 essay by Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie wrote The Gospel of Wealth. And quoting him, Bill Gates says, the duty of the rich is to give back to the society.
Correct.
In other words, about philanthropy.
Thank you, Dr.
And we have examples in Nigeria, Tony Elumelu, Femi Otedola, Aliko Dangote.
Absolutely.
We have many people who are also in that part. So Bill Gates represents a very great example. Finally, on the issue of the Pope, I've spoken at length this morning on the issue of the Pope. But the other part that I have not talked about is the fact that some people see the emergence of this Pope as if it is political. Because, you know, Trump went on, you know, Truth Social and posted an AI-generated...
yes.
And he talked about a very good cardinal who is in New York, you know, and all of that. And then at the end of the day, it was an American Pope, the very first that emerged. So is this a case of America first? But we will never know because, you know, the conclave is a secretive process. And if anything comes out of that conclave, whoever reveals it as a cardinal is excommunicated, you know, from the church. That's the punishment. But we have a Pope who is a moderate, and we'll look forward to the future.
All righty. Let's move on to the newspapers. As ever, we begin with this day. This day does, of course, lead with the story of the Pope, the first American Pope, Robert Provost, being elected as Pope Francis' successor, becoming Pope Leo XIV. Also, the IMF has confirmed Nigeria has repaid its $3.4 billion loans. On the topic of insecurity, though, the New Telegraph has the Middle Belt Forum has broken its silence on these killings of unarmed people in Benue State, as it backed the earlier call from the former Chief of Army Staff, Danjuma, who urged Nigerians to resort to self-defense to curb this ongoing massacre of the people. To The Guardian, and it leads with Anambra Apka and Obi's kinsmen have endorsed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for a second term. And to the Daily Independent, it does have Senate President Godswill Akpabio refusing to step down over accusations of sexual harassment that have been levelled against him. Very quickly to United Kingdom, let's take a look at the Daily Express. President Donald Trump and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Thursday did announce a limited bilateral trade agreement that leaves in place Trump's 10% tariffs on British exports, modestly expands agricultural access for both countries, but lowers prohibited US duties on British car exports. Now, the General Terms Agreement is the first of dozens of tariff-lowering deals that Trump expects to land in coming weeks after upending the global trading system with steep new import taxes even aimed at shrinking the $1.2 trillion US goods trade deficit.
Yeah, you got it into the
We got that.
I mean, what else can we say? I think what is most important, I mean, for the couple of papers we have gone through today. And I'll just pick on a story I saw on one of the front pages of the National Daily, where it was pretty much talking about the Pope. And I think it was the front page of the This Day newspaper, where it was talking about the emergence of the Pope. I think one thing that is also foundational that we must also know, apart from people of faith and the Pope and every conversation, is the fact that, see, the truth has to be said. Will these world leaders that are congratulating the Pope today listen to him when he talks about the migration crisis, migration ills? Because you see, these world leaders have a mind of their own.
Yeah.
I will never forget when Donald Trump started to abuse bishop of, and I remember the church because it's just close to White House. I saw it in D.C.
Oh, yes,
this
the
is
woman. I
the
forget
woman,
her name.
just
yes.
close to, when she was just saying that, please remember that we are all migrants one way or the other. Even the Donald Trump that says no to illegal immigration, no to migrants and things like that. The question is, where is he from? His family ran away from persecution in Karlstadt in Germany. So let's just be a little bit more compassionate to one another. Agreed. I'm not saying people cannot get things right. And that's why the Democrats had something called, the program, A Safe Way for People, the Dreamer program, where you came in as an illegal, but there's a pathway for your children to be able to come legal. Okay. That's just it. So please, we should all introspect as regards this and listen, because very soon, I know this Pope, he will start to speak about those plights. The Augustinian order, apart from being highly doctrinal, they also speak about causes of humanity.
Well, let's see. Thank you, Rufai.
I'll quickly touch on Saludo the solution.
Yes.
Apuga PC. It's now Apuga PC.
I almost put the U in so I remember to pronounce it properly.
Apuga PC. Well, quite an outing yesterday that we saw the president being hosted in Anambra State. Beautiful projects unveiled yesterday, but what stole the show, of course, was the show of solidarity between the two men. And it reminded me of when we had Valentine Ozibo here in the studio, and he was talking about Soludo is working with APC and so forth. Well, it seems that there's a very warm, cordial relationship between the Governor Soludo and the APC. And it just leaves a lot to be desired, again, about the state of opposition politics here in Nigeria that we've been unpacking for so long. Right. Because it looks like everybody is falling in line, especially when you look at the South region, whether it be the South-South, now we're looking at Southeast as well. Right. So unfortunately for us, when we're supposed to be focusing on governance right now, politics is fully on display. But I always say, at least if it's coming with projects, then we can celebrate it mildly.
Exactly. Some good there.
Okay, very quickly. The Order of St. Augustine was established in 1244, and they follow what they call the rules of St. Augustine. Augustine of Hippo was the one who established, that particular order, and it's a mendicant order. So one thing we can be certain about is that this particular Pope, Leo XIV, is going to, support the poor. He's going to preach about justice. He's going to talk about unity, consistent with the rules of Augustine. And in the past, if you look at a review of his tweets, he has been talking about the right of immigrants, gun control in America. And on one occasion also, he had to rebuke J.D. Vance. But we'll see. The papacy has started. And we're just happy that the Catholic Church has found a Pope. Finally, about the deal, the UK trade deal. Now, we don't have all the details yet. President Trump himself said so. Keir Starmer is excited. He says we have established a long-term platform for relations with the US. But experts are saying it's actually a small win, But nevertheless, Britain was classified in the third category, but now, due to diplomacy, now the first country with which the Americans have been able to do a deal.
All right.
Okay, thank you.